Good evening, everyone. Call the-
Commissioner Barnes? Commissioner Urbani?
Here.
Commissioner Chorin?
Here.
Commissioner Hawley?
Here.
Commissioner Schaefer? Commissioner Stoker? Alderman Stralchuk?
Here.
Mayor Nurbin?
Here. Before we get going, I'll remind anyone, does anyone have these yellow comment cards? I saw a couple of people filling them out and back. If you have them, please deliver them to Robin here, and she'll make sure they get up here. First up out of the gate, we have two public hearing items. Oh, well, do you want to approve the minutes? Okay. Since you said so. First up, approving the minutes
Move
from the
approval.
last month. Motion and a second. Any comments, questions, or corrections? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Now we have two public hearing items. The first is Black Duck Partners for Planet Fitness. The applicant is seeking a conditional use grant approval to allow for a fitness center in the property located at 11300 Northport Washington Road. Is there a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
And several seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now in public hearing. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak about Planet Fitness? Hearing and seeing none, is there a motion to close public hearing?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are back in regular session, and we'll immediately take this item up. Any questions for staff, or is there a motion to approve? Okay. Okay, you want to just, or people want to leave it for consent? Consent's the one where we lump everything together and generally don't talk about it too much. If there's any questions on this one, we can hold it over. Okay, seeing and none, we'll just hold it over for consent. Next is David Reckers for mobile. The applicant is seeking expansion of a non-conforming use and building in site plan amendment approval to allow for a previously approved car wash and ancillary facilities for the property located at 11155 North Wauwatosa Road. This was before us a little over a year ago, and all the approvals lapsed, so it's back in front of us.
Move to go into public hearing.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now in public hearing. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak on this item? Yes, sir. Please come to the, oh, is the applicant? Oh, yeah, just take your seat. We'll get to you in a second when the public comment is over. And does anyone here from the public wish to speak on this item tonight? Hearing and seeing none, is there a motion to close public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we are back in regular session.
So now, yes, if you want to keep this, you can list the number 3 consent items all together, and we can take a lump consent if you vote on all those, or if you want to separate anything out, now would be the time.
Sure, so we've got these two items now that they've had their public hearing, and there's 5 more items on consent. Commissioner Strelchak.
Yeah, I noticed that some of the dates were copy-pasted and they were backdated to 2023, so we do need to establish dates for landscaping requirements and things like that. For the car wash.
I think staff included their old report. Is that? So I just want to make sure we're looking at the new one and the new conditions, which should mirror the old ones. Yeah, it looks like even in the new ones, they're off a little bit. Looking at condition 4.
So I guess
Maybe that's the only one.
my question is, based on the date of approval, did we give them approximately 1 year to comply. Item 5 is one that I'm looking at that's October of '23, so do we shift that back to like a, July of '25 or removal of scrub brush?
What packet page are you on by chance? You scroll down just a little
That's
bit
the
more.
new one, that's 33.
I think the new one is 23.
It's in both.
I think it's a copy paste error from the old one. I think old condition 5 is now condition 4. But there's a
So commissioners, the previous approval was May of 2023. So it looks like staff had probably given them the summer planting season to get that corrected. I do think some of that trimming and vegetation cleanup has already occurred. If we want to, extend that through, spring of next year, given this new approval date, that would be fine.
so perhaps just a date subject to staff.
Yeah, that
Yeah, I would
fits.
just do
staff
June
issuance.
30th of 25. But I do believe most of it's already been cleaned up.
That'd be great. Just if there's an action item and a condition, a date in the future to have it comply
Right.
by, makes it an active condition.
Okay, since we discussed this one and it's really no longer on the consent agenda, is there a motion that captures that?
Move approval with staff changing the date on item 4 to June 30th, 2025.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We can continue to talk about it. Are there any other questions or comments? Does the applicant have something to say?
Yeah, I guess I just want to point out there were minor adjustments since we had an approval from Evan on the site plan.
Oh, can you make sure the mic is on? You got to get really, really close. Is the green dot on?
No worries.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah.
So on some of the requirements, we went through the site plan and things with Evan, I believe. There were some minor changes. We're wondering if we can just finalize those today.
What minor changes?
So we increased our asphalt amount, or I'm sorry, concrete amount near the waste in order to handle the truck load. That was reflected, I believe, on this page on the docket. I'm not sure which number this is.
Is there a specific staff condition that's pertaining to?
Not that I see immediately, but
It-
that would be the only change really to the site plan, and we're wondering if we can just skip that approval or if we want to go through that again.
I think we could let that be a staff approval. I mean, something like that's probably not super critical. The percent concrete versus asphalt probably isn't something the planning commission itself needs to worry too much about. It's probably the same amount of impervious surface as you're just trading one for one.
Yeah, just wanted to
Okay.
make sure. And then the other piece would be, we are a little concerned because our landscaper included, which is not on the site plan, but on the landscape plan, on the southeast corner of the building, there is, we have it striped, the landscaper had a planter there. You can see right on the, yep. We're concerned that the vegetation won't allow customers to be able to see around. And we just want to see if we can clarify on how to handle that and get it corrected so that we're all on the same page.
It's difficult. This is not supposed to be a negotiation. This is supposed to occur before the meeting.
Okay,
I
I
Um,
understand.
So one thing, in the interest of keeping this moving forward, someone could make an amendment to have those finer points in the landscape plan and pavement plan be staff level approvals, and if you can't come to an agreement, then that portion of it could come back here, but you could start moving forward with the rest.
Perfect, thank you.
Someone would have to make that motion, though.
I'd accept that to my motion.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'll second.
Okay, the motioner and the seconder both agreed to that amendment. So now the new motion on the floor is reflective of that. So I think that would, if you can't work it out with staff, we'll just see you next month.
I think we can work it out.
Okay. Any other points on this one to discuss? Commissioner Barnes?
We did receive this evening comments, public feedback regarding with access egress for your site. Acknowledging that that is a DOT subject matter for both driveways that you have, but I do want to just emphasize that as suggested in the note here that we got a copy of regarding concerns of the median opening along Mequon Road, that that concerns for traffic. And without getting into the details, I think it is something just to make a point that the DOT is made aware of it. I'm sure they will be aware of it and would address it in a different way than perhaps when it was constructed years ago. But simply highlight that for the DOT's attention and direction.
They are closing that median entrance in 2027 as of right now. That's what's planned, just so you know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I know that's soon to be reconstructed, just like everything else in Mequon's been reconstructed. So, but thank you, Cole. It's good to know it's on their radar screen already. Okay, any other comments on this item? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And you're reapproved. Good luck. All right, that takes care of item 2B. We have items 2A, 3A, B, C, and D, and E, all on consent. Would you like to hold over items C and D, Commissioner Strelchek, to discuss the small discrepancies in the staff reports on acreage?
Or we could discuss it now, and then I could make a
No.
motion for all three if you choose.
Let's just hold them over.
Hold them over.
Yeah.
I have something I'd like to just ask about item A.
Okay, so the consent agenda we are about to vote on will be items 2A, 3B, and 3E. Those three items are the ones that don't have anything anyone wants to talk about. So is there a motion to approve
Move approval.
those three items? There's a motion.
Second.
Yeah, motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So 2A, 3B, and 3C, or 2A, yep, 3B, and 3E, yep. So let's discuss item 3A. That's Alex Lycan, the applicant seeking a minor request for approval to allow accessory structure exceeding 1,000 square feet for the property located at 14207 North Birchwood Lane. Sounds like Commissioner Barnes has a question.
It is a question, and it's very minor, but it did, when looking at the site, and I don't have concerns with what's proposed as much as just a question. I could see there's a series of birch trees that look like they are right at what would be the edge of the building, as I could see it. I'm assuming that the what is that, kind of a greenish blue rectangle on the site plan, on the proposed site plan that shows where the proposed building will go. And when I was out there looking, I didn't go out and walk into it, but it looked like the birch trees would be right along the edge of that building. And sure, they're just some birch trees, but then again, it looks to me like something that could be avoided. So a question on that.
I guess if there's specimen trees, we'd follow our same procedure. When they apply for a building permit, we'd verify that there were no specimen trees impacted. On the sewer pack map that did the wetland delineation, I don't really see that existence of those birch trees, so I'm not sure exactly where they are.
Well,
Right along the, yeah, just above your, right
Right here?
Toward the road, down that edge of it, right there and below. There's a series of.
Oh, those two.
There's a series of birch trees. They're not, I mean, they're reasonably sized, but they're not huge. But
Okay.
it's just something that I'm thinking, could that be avoided?
Well, again, if they're not specimen trees, we don't really have any teeth to require
Yeah.
them to be remaining, to keep them. So I guess we can verify with our city forester if they should remain as a specimen tree. If not, then they can take them down.
I don't believe birch trees are on the
I don't believe so either.
city's list of
And-
specimen trees, so
And that's
they're,
why I do bring it up, only because it looked like it might be unavoidable.
well, there's nothing regulating the removal of them. So there's nothing to talk about, unfortunately. Mr. Lyken, the applicant, yeah, please feel free to add some color.
Wonderful catch on the birch trees. I would very much like to keep my birch trees. We are that close to the birch trees, or perhaps over the birch trees, because there's a specific setback from what is said to be wetlands, which is just a drainage field, really. The setback is, Jack, was it 30 feet? I don't remember.
50 for that rear
Fif-
wetland.
It's 50 feet from over there. It is, I'm waiting for the report from, honestly, from who did the wetland delineation. They just said they're too busy to give us a report, but if I get a full report from them, I can submit it to the DNR, I'm sorry, not DNR, to the Army Corps of Engineers and get a waiver on that, so that you would have then the ability to waive the setback on that, so I can keep my birch trees. But if I have to get rid of my birch trees, I will, for my wonderful pole barn. But I'd love to keep my birch trees, yes.
Very good. Commissioner Schaefer?
Mr. Legan, this parcel has been before us multiple times in my tenure here.
I
You've had
know.
a lot of different decisions on what to do on this land, it looks like. And so now it sounds like this is a building. So part of this, I assume, is being used for agriculture, because this is a building that is an ag building, which means based on our ordinance, and it can be used only to store agricultural related equipment. And
Okay.
that's the only purpose for it. Just want to make sure that you're abundantly clear on that.
Okay.
Okay, great.
I think that was the stated intent. All right, the parcel was combined, so it met the threshold, so you could have this. That was before us maybe a year ago.
Correct.
more.
The parcels were combined specifically so I can, it was combined
yeah.
specifically so I can have my pole barn.
Correct. Any other questions from any of the commissioners? Commissioner Strelchak?
What do we need for a motion if he does want to keep the birch trees and he does want to get an exception? Do we want to see it before us again, just to vote on position only?
Well, I guess I'd ask Cole, but I believe that Sewer Pack did delineate these wetlands and has established the 50-foot setback, so that they have jurisdiction over these wetlands at the time. So I'm not sure what the Army Corps would do to override that. So we have our wetland setback in our code, and our code is dictated by the type of wetland, and Sewer Pack used that definition to determine the 50-foot setback from those wetlands as part of their delineation.
Yeah, that's fine, but he just mentioned that he was going to see if he could go for an exception and maintain the birch trees, and to avoid him having to come back a second time or a third time for this.
Well, without knowing a distance, I'm not sure how you want to handle that.
Sure.
If there's a competing report, you can always amend the approval later.
Yeah, I prefer not to have to come back for an approval if I should get delineation actual report, and if I can get the waiver from the Army Corps of Engineers, we'll deal with it if that happens. But otherwise, if we're going to be right on top of the birch trees, so be it.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to hinder what you're doing as much as just wondering, and I know with the wetland, et cetera, is there some flexibility such that it's
Well-
an impact to avoid?
For where there's no regulation, we shouldn't tell him what to do. So I'd like to save all the trees too, but we have no regulation prohibiting them from being cut down. And he's got a building he wants to build, so. Commissioner Chorin, sorry.
I mean, can't
Okay.
we simply state that, based on the setback established by the governmental body that dictates that would be the condition that he has to meet?
I think the plan is reflective of that. So there's no exception to make. Only if he were to come back with a different delineation, we would probably have to come back and amend the position. If that happens. But if it doesn't happen, it's good to go as is.
That's it.
If assuming it's approved tonight, yes. I have no idea if you'll probably never get the Army Corps to undo it, but if they don't, then it'll get built where we're considering it tonight.
In the setbacks 50, we're currently showing 52 on the plat.
Well, yeah, he's got 2 feet to play with there. It's 50 foot. You can see the wetland setback at 50, and he's showing the structure at 52 feet.
Yeah, don't make a mistake and be 6 inches in the wrong direction.
It's probably wise to have a little bit of a buffer.
All right. I'd make a motion for approval if there's not one on the table already.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Abani,
Aye.
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Commissioner Chorin,
Aye.
Commissioner Hawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer, Commissioner Stoker, Alderman Strelchak,
Aye.
Mayor Nurbin.
Aye.
Vote passes.
Congratulations. Happy pole barn building.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Next, we have Susan and Thomas Tanner. The applicant is seeking a certified survey map approval to allow for a 2-lot land division for the properties located at 2400 West County Line Road. So this was an item Commissioner Strelchak had caught a couple of discrepancies on total acreage between reports and maps.
Yeah,
So something likely needs to get corrected. We just wanted to talk about it, so it's all in open session.
It's simply due to the application including a parcel that fronts on County Line Road that is not part of really the CSM. So that's the discrepancy between the 2 acres.
Oh, is the other
So if
lot?
you look at the zoning map, or packet page 68, you'll see that there's a parcel that's zoned R2 that fronts on County Line Road that is southwest of it. So their application material included that parcel because the shared private driveway goes through there, so it was a parcel that was impacted, but it's not necessarily a parcel that's part of the CSM.
okay, got it.
Perfect. Well, with that cleared up, are there any other comments or questions?
Move approval.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And then that is approved as well. On to our last consent agenda item, Sean O'Driscoll for ODRE 1 LLC. The applicant is seeking a certified survey map approval to alter the lot lines of the property located at 14319 North Port Washington Road. And I think Commissioner Strelchak found a couple of math things there as well.
Yeah, and this one, the lot size shows as 32.06 acres, and when added up, it's 33 with the background description. So we're
That's the
slightly
same
different on
issue.
that one as well.
That's the same issue. The zoning map didn't include that 1.5 acre parcel. So that automatic calculation in the software program didn't include that.
Okay, good deal. And
Perfect.
I just wanted to make sure we were accurate in what we were
No,
approving.
thank
and
you.
with the numbers being different, I didn't want anyone to have to come back, so.
Thank you.
Move approval.
Motion.
I have one other question there.
Okay.
Second? And
Yeah, we can
I'll
still
ask
talk
that.
about it. Yeah. Motion and a second. Okay.
I'll second that. And
Commissioner Barnes.
yes, the question I have here is the Ozaki County requirements we followed and understand being along Port Road, et cetera. I guess I'm just wondering, is there a possibility that access may be desired along Pioneer Road? And my concerns are just simply the possible proximity of an access point to the new lot at that corner?
We are in review of concept development plans for that corner parcel, and those plans do not include any access on Pioneer, either desired by the applicant nor discussed at this point.
Okay, so it's being presented, so it's really the Port Road, along Port Road and the county
Correct.
review on it. Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions from the commissioners on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That item 2 is approved. On to regular business. First up, we have Ray's Wauwatosa Incorporated. The applicant is seeking a building and site plan amendment approval to allow for the conversion of a vacant building for the property located at 7555 West Mequon Road. This will be known as Ray's Wine and Spirits. And we have several people who have registered in one form or another, either to speak or just show, indicate an opinion one way or the other. So I'll read them into the record, and if your name is called to speak, please come up to the podium. Oop, this is on a different item. Okay, first one for Ray's is Laura Strauss, supports, and put a question mark next to wishing to speak. You wish to speak, Laura? Her address is 9715 North Cortland Drive in Mequon.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Just wanted to say that I support the zoning, the request for the changes to the zoning to allow for Ray's to pursue the plan that's been submitted.
Excellent, thank you. Next, we have Jana Lee Hitchcock, supports, does not wish to speak. Our address is 11056 North Pebble Lane. Next is Nancy Talaco, supports, did not indicate preference to speak. Says she's glad to see this property finally being used and feels Ray's Liquor will be a great addition to our community. Address 12644 North Shoreland Parkway. Next is Peter Mangus, supports, does not wish to speak. 109 East Monroe Avenue, Unit 15, Hartford, Wisconsin. The next is Dr. Chris Cunningham, supports, does not wish to speak. 216 West Alta Loma Circle, Thiensville, Wisconsin. Ashley Anderson, supports, did not indicate she wishes to speak. Address is 8460 West Highlander Drive. You want to speak? Come right up.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Anderson. My family and I have resided in Mequon for 5 years. We live in one of the new developments off Wauwatosa Road. And I can honestly say for the past couple years that the building's been vacant, we all talk in our community. We want something really cool going in the space. And I'll tell you what, when I found out it was Ray's, I can tell you this community is excited. I feel like it's something that we need. It's a concept we don't have, especially with the implementation of the possible educational courses and everything. So I just think that this is gonna be something really new and exciting, and our neighborhood is really excited about it. So I'm here in full support.
Fantastic, thank you. Next, we have Allison Cunningham, supports, did not wish to speak. 216 West Alta Loma Circle, Thiensville. And our last person to fill out a comment card was Andy Tarnoff, supports and wishes to speak. 9080 North Rexley Drive.
Hi. Hi, my name is Andy Tarnoff, and I'd like to support the new location of Ray's. I've been a customer there for years. I think they're a great local independent business, and I think they will be excellent neighbors for all of us in Mequon and on the North Shore. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak about on Ray's? Not seeing anyone else. Okay, we can take it back to the staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. So as some of the public mentioned, the property's been vacant. It's the former Finial site, which was a retail and service use. The use of beer, wine, and liquor retail is a permitted use in the Arrival Corridor District, which is part of the town center neighborhood. Ray's Wine and Spirits is a full-service retail store, and it does have another location in Wauwatosa. I think it's a great fit for the community. It's similar to other Wisconsin-based uses that have chosen to locate in the town center neighborhood, but it is a permitted use, so we're really not here to discuss operational issues. It's not a conditional use grant. We're really here to discuss building and site plan improvements. We've met with the applicant several times to evaluate how we can achieve consistency at this site with the rest of the town center neighborhood design standards. The building is 2 stories. It's a little over 13,000 square feet. And there will be new siding, new roofing, some new outdoor dining spaces or cafe spaces along the sidewalk portion that's adjacent to the structure and under an overhang. The use does include a deli and food that you can either get catered or take with you. So we're hoping to encourage some of that outdoor seating. There will be new gutters, which will be buried and discharged below. The parking lot will be repaired, and then the landscaping will be updated to meet the town center streetscaping requirements. In addition, we've asked that the sidewalk extend, wrap around the corner of Wauwatosa and Mequon Road, and then run along that west property line to the south property line so we can continue that public connection. Open space is being met for the site with the additions that they're providing here. The 2 driveways will have the town center street light added to its location along with new monument signage. So the tall monument sign at the corner will be removed. Interior parking lot landscaping will be updated. Currently, those are non-compliant because they're not cut-off lights. We talk a little bit in detail in the staff report. Obviously, with the building not being removed, we can't achieve a lot of the town center district standards about building placement, being up to closer to the street frontage with the parking to the rear, but we did ask for landscape screening of that parking lot. There is a little bit of a grade change from the street level down to the parking lot. So I think that street frontage will look nice and probably similar to what we were able to accomplish at Outpost. We did discuss some other architectural features as part of the building change, including awnings and canopies. Those types of projections are encouraged, I guess, on structures in the town center neighborhood because of its pedestrian character, but that front door already is really kind of set back and under the roof's overhang. It also has a second story window that provides some architectural detail. At the end of the day, given the style of the architecture, kind of having the barn style roof, a large, canopy over that front door wasn't really going to fit the architectural style, and it wasn't really going to serve a purpose because the front door was already covered under an overhang. There aren't any wetlands on site. Obviously, the driveway locations are as far removed from the intersection as possible. We don't expect there to be any additional impervious surfaces added. There is the issue that over the last several years, Outpost Natural Foods staff members have utilized parking with consent of the property owner. So staff did discuss that with Ray's. They're open to providing additional parking for Outpost staff to the extent that they can. Observations of parking over the years have been anywhere from 4 to about 10 spaces. Ray's does have an excess of 10 stalls per the code, and would anticipate, continuing to offer that, but they will discuss that with Outpost after they are able to achieve these approvals and close on the property. So staff is recommending approval. Typical, conditions of approval that you see in terms of the lighting plan, landscaping plan, final approval of the sidewalk details, and all of the typical engineering standards. So with that, we recommend approval, and we can help address any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Anyone on the commission have any questions? Oh, we've got two. Commissioner Barnes.
Yes, this is just some miscellaneous things. As I seem to do, minor miscellaneous things cross my mind when I'm out there looking at it. First of all, I guess the comment in your report that pedestrian access from Mequon Road sidewalk, I guess since it doesn't appear on the plan, but I guess what I would urge is that there's a direct connection from the intersection, the street intersection, to the site somehow.
We've actually discussed that with the applicant. We mentioned that probably the best direct connection where there's the least conflict with vehicular maneuvering on the property is likely at the Mequon Road access point, somewhere along those new landscaped islands that are kind of the bookends to the parking aisles, that we would get direct access there to their interior sidewalk that leads them both to a door that is accessible by the deli there at the corner and then also to the front door.
I guess, and I understand, I'm just thinking to make it even more convenient for pedestrians, could there be a sidewalk
Sure,
going diagonally from the intersection coming in where the trees that are proposed somehow?
We explored that as the first option, but we later decided somewhere on the Mequon Street frontage was probably more appropriate. There is a arc, so to speak, of trees, right at that corner. There, because we thought it would be a nice visual, kind of like what Outpost has at their corner, because they've got a little pavilion plaza area at their corner. But you'd really have to trim the canopies of those up. It's pretty tight in between each one of the trees, and given the grade change, you're not going to necessarily get the same visual connection at that location that you would elsewhere. We happen to see more pedestrian traffic occurring on the Mequon Road side than really at the hard intersection. Obviously, as one of the members of the public spoke, living, in the areas where the enclave and those newer subdivisions are, we're hoping to continue to have pedestrian connection there, but that would likely occur prior to the intersection as well. The other, business uses at that intersection are not necessarily pedestrian oriented, so I'm not sure that that is the best direct linkage to the front door of
I'll just share with what came to mind was with residents. We have some good friends that live immediately north, and they're all support of the project, et cetera. But I know there would be residents coming from the north crossing the signalized intersection, and they're, people are going to cut through the grass or weave through the trees or odd things like that. And so that's where I'm coming from. So just as a suggestion. The second item I wanted to bring up is, are there comments coming from the Mequon City Police on this particular use? Just to get to the point is I've heard a couple of other people say, just wondering, what looks like a great use and support for it, that could there be longer term problems, and how does the city intend to address that?
Well, we would address that like we would any other enforcement issue, but it is permitted, so we're not here to evaluate operations. There's hours of operations that are required in the town center neighborhood district. They're complying with those, and we have to give them an opportunity to be good business owners and good citizens, and if there are issues, then we'll deal with that either with police issues or police interaction or our enforcement procedures.
And that's fine, thank you.
Yeah.
Following up on that when I was driving or looking around at the site and exiting it at the, I guess it's the southerly driveway, you cannot see to the south. You cannot see oncoming traffic, and simply because of trees, bushes, and it's right where that adjoining residential property is. So I think you're dealing with the challenge of where the lot line is, et cetera. But when you're in that driveway to turn out, to exit from the site, you cannot really see very far to see oncoming traffic, particularly the traffic that's in that outside lane that's heading north to turn right onto Mequon Road. So I just point that out as something that I think ought to be looked at a little bit for
It
improving
doesn't
what's
appear
there.
that landscape feature is in the right of way. It looks like it's on private property, so the city would not be able to force removal of that.
So I have a concern on just the safety there for
So
people driving out of it, customers driving out, employees.
Is that on the western side of the property?
yes, it's that.
Okay. And Wauwatosa Road is also getting reconstructed in the very near future, maybe next year. It's within the next couple of years.
It's a simple circumstance that just visibility. Yeah.
I'm struggling to understand what the applicant could do about it, though, because they're not going to move the existing driveway. And all the conditions that make it difficult are not on his location.
And I'm not suggesting moving the driveway. I guess I'm inquiring about clearing of some of the.
We wouldn't be able
construction.
to require that on private property.
Well, that's someone else's private property. Commissioner Chorn.
In the recommendations, I didn't see anything with regards to architectural products. I think you referenced that, and there were a couple pictures that showed new siding, but there was no information on the siding, the color, any of that. Has that been proposed, and do we need to look at that and put our blessings on that?
They're intending to use a similar brown exterior siding. Yes. Because of the stone features on the structure, I think they wanted to maintain consistency with the existing color.
Okay, and I see that they've removed a couple of the items that are on the building now. I think the fake door to what could have been a hayloft, on the one side is gone, which is fine, but just want to make sure that we've got that all covered.
Any other questions from any of the commissioners? Commissioner Schaefer.
Not so much a question. I was very excited to see this come forward. We were frequent customers of Ray's when we lived in Wauwatosa before moving here. It's a great family-owned business that they were very good community members and stewards of the community. That was right, that other locations on 89th and North Avenue. So a lot of traffic there. Probably unwise, but I waded into the comments section of Nextdoor over the weekend, and this was a topic of conversation. I did it. And so a couple of the discussion points, and it's good to kind of to get a sense of, the few people that are sharing their thoughts there. Couple of salient points. One was around traffic, and that's an intersection that is relatively high traffic. I don't know that any use there is going to necessarily solve that, right? I think I'd rather have the building occupied by a business that's contributing to the community, knowing that will add some additional traffic, and I don't negate the impacts to those who travel that intersection, that maybe live in the area and travel that intersection on a regular basis, but I don't think that is a reason to say no. And I think the other question, and perhaps this was what you were alluding to too, Commissioner Barnes, was around safety. To Ms. Tellefson's point, we don't get to decide that, but I will say all the experience we had in Wauwatosa with Ray's, it was a fine, upstanding business that did not create any additional safety concerns in the neighborhood. And again, that was a very high traffic corridor between Wauwatosa and downtown. So I wouldn't anticipate that this would create any additional safety concerns. I'm excited about it. I think it's great.
Mequon Road at that location has about 18,000 cars traveling east-west all on its own. With an empty building there. Yeah, it's two major state highways that run right through Mequon. What makes it a good location for something like this, because the minuscule amount it'll add will just blend into between the two of those, the other 30,000 cars that go through there every day. Commissioner Strelchak.
This is a question for the applicant. Are you going to continue to do the wine emails?
Oh, yeah.
With the really cool descriptions and, everything's just the most wonderful thing you've ever seen in the entire world.
The hyperbole will not stop, I promise you.
Yeah. So I just wanted to lean into that for the people here. I've been a customer of Ray's for 20 plus years. And, when I had my business here in Mequon, I would go down and if I wasn't buying something in Mequon, I had questions about wine and I needed help. And I'd walk in, and if I couldn't get the help of somebody there, they'd walk me to one of the owners. I had questions on rum one day, and I got walked back to the back office. He's like, I got all this here. Which one do you want to try? That lends itself to the type of people that are applying for this. This is a cherished gem in the Wauwatosa community, and then we have a shot at getting it here as a cherished gem within Mequon. And I think of the Knights of Curling and the wine guys from the curling club and everybody that would go to Ray's, and it was the one place where you could get expertise and deep knowledge on what you were buying and what you were working on going in. And it wasn't just a drive-by liquor store that you get something in a brown bag. So if the public perception is that this is a high-end community-based company that happens to sell beverages to us adults that choose to partake and enjoy. So with that being said, I want to set some nerves at ease. I heard some concern from the community, and I've heard some concern about people stating it within the community here tonight. So I just wanted to set the record straight from my experience in dealing with this retailer, and I'm really glad. I hope that you're busy. I hope that the traffic at the intersection is plentiful and they continue to come through, and you have several years of supporting our community the way that you've supported Wauwatosa. And I just wanted to share that, after listening to everything here tonight, I'm even more excited to continue to support you with my vote tonight and approval if and when we get to that point, which I'm sure we will.
That sounded dangerously close to a motion.
I'd like to move to approve.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions regarding Ray's? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Urbani.
Aye.
Commissioner Chorin.
Aye.
Commissioner Barnes.
Aye.
Commissioner Hawley.
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer. Commissioner Stoker. Alderman Strelchak.
Yes, please. Aye.
Mayor Nurbin.
Aye.
Vote passes.
Congratulations. Looking forward to the opening.
Thank you.
Good evening, thanks. All right, on to our next regular business item. ICAP, applicant is seeking a certified survey map and rezoning of PUD amendment approval to allow for a two-lot land division for the property located at 10921 North Port Washington Road.
Sorry, it's not as exciting as the last item, but this is a PUD amendment and a certified survey map. This is the ICAP development. This is the area. I have it up on the screen just to give you some context. We have Jilly's Car Wash to the south. We have Landmark Credit Union. We have the Arby's building, the multi-tenant building, and there's a vacant site in the front. The site we're referring to is in the back section. This was all one parcel in the back. They're asking to split that into two pieces, which do not meet the 2-acre minimum for the B2, which triggers us to go into a rezoning for a concept plan amendment. This northern piece, we already met with the potential developer of that site. They're looking to do a child care center there. That'll probably be coming on our planning commission meeting next month. So we approved the concept plan. We also wanted to reiterate we wanted this looped connection of this road to go through so they can get to the center section where there's a full access point. This is only a right in, right out at this location up here. So they'll have this fully looped through and complete the whole, basically the whole development of the parcel except this last little piece on the south end. So we recommend approval. Just as a reminder, they still have to meet the open space and FAR requirements for the entire site, which shouldn't be an issue. They do have this whole wet pond area that's all considered as open space as well as this dry pond issue. So we're getting close to finishing this development up, but we have a couple of little pieces left to go, and we recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Any questions or comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Strelchuk.
Yeah, overall, I'm very supportive of this. I'm excited to see that you've got something ideally going in. Do you have people identified for the 2 sites at this point?
As Jack alluded to, there should be somebody coming forth next month with a site plan for approval on the north portion of it. We've had interest in something similar to what we're showing on the south part. Multiple professional organizations looking to potentially locate there. So regardless of the approvals for the site to the north, we think this is probably the direction that the market has gone to over the course of the last 6 years when we were in front of you for the PUD originally. So we think it's a smart play for us regardless.
Is that for the larger of the 2 or the smaller of the 2?
It'll be for the larger of the 2 that you'll see, I believe, next month.
Okay, I was here when this got voted on originally, and one of the concerns was that we get down, we approve this on concept, and we'd get down to the last couple lots, and then we'd have some non-compliant lot that we'd be asked to approve something based on a hardship, and you had a blank slate going into it, and I wanted to reiterate here, you still have a blank slate on these 2 lots. So if you're gonna build out on the first one, just with whatever you come back with on the smaller one, make sure that it fits the code, and you're not asking for a bunch of exceptions and claiming a hardship, because it's not a hardship when you started out with blank land, and you could, you could choose who you put in there and who you'd sell to. So just I wanted to reiterate that one point, and I've been supportive of everything that you've come forward with up to this point, and I'll continue to be supportive of this one as well with that word of caution.
Great. No, I appreciate that, and that's why we have that future development showed. We double-checked all of our numbers so that we weren't coming back here with our tails between our legs and asking for forgiveness or something. We've got something that fits and works with parking and works with the size of a building that makes some sense back there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. Good question. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Well, fantastic. There's one.
Second.
There's 2. Motion and a second. Any other comments or questions before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And that item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Looking forward to seeing the plan next month. Yeah. We have our last regular business item, Blues Trucking for Dan Mahal. Applicant is seeking a minor request approval to allow for the amendment to the waiver, for the existing berm for the property located at 12701 North Farmdale Road. Maybe a little intro to this item from staff.
All right, the applicant is seeking after-the-fact planning commission approval for a berm that was approved previously along along Farmdale Road. That item was initially approved back in 2020. I assume no one here really recalls that too closely. So the approval itself was for a berm exceeding 1,000 cubic yards of fill, as well as the height requested above 4.5 feet. The applicant was approved for a berm that was 6 feet in height. During construction, the berm was built approximately 6 to 10 feet in height, and we have a kind of an overview in the packet of areas that would need to be adjusted to bring it into compliance. So the height's the one issue. Slopes we limit to a 4-to-1 maximum. Those were constructed between like 2 and 4-to-1, so a little bit too steep. And then the top of the berm was supposed to undulate a little bit more than it currently does. So the reasons for the waiver that the applicant indicated per request tonight was additional disturbance to the neighbors to bring that berm into compliance, financial concerns, and the current state of the berms being already restored and vegetated, creating further disturbance if now changed. So the staff hasn't received, we haven't received many complaints regarding the berm since its completion, but we do recommend denial of the waiver so that it can be brought into compliance as it was originally approved for.
Thank you, Cole. We do have several, well, 3 people registered to speak on this item. One, I believe, is the applicant, so we'll wait because the applicant always gets to talk. Second is Todd Jacobson. From one, it looks like the address is the same as the property, so that's lump you in with the applicant. Is that you, sir? Okay, so we got those 2. There's one other person registered to speak on this item, Matt Reganer. There's a question mark under opposed and wishes to speak from 12750 Farmdale Road. Do you wish to speak, sir?
First that I've seen of these modifications to this. Thank you for presenting it. I do have some concerns about traffic on that corner as well as visibility on the corner. I have a number of people run through that coming from the west to the east, rounding that corner with no visibility into my front lawn. It's been very problematic for us. We had several people in our front lawn last winter. I believe it's because of the visibility around the berm that's to the far corner of Farmdale and Highland right there. There's also a substantial number of trucks coming out of the gap between the 2 berms right there. We just want to make sure that that continues to be safe. It's very difficult to see that, and occasionally as the trucks turn out of that berm right there, it's very difficult for the oncoming traffic to deal with that. Usually it results in people backing up or doing something strange right there in order to avoid the trucks that are coming out of that corner right there in the gap between the 2 berms. Thank you.
Thank you. So the other 2 that were registered to speak are applicants, so I think it's fine to kick it over to them now to add anything they might want to say. Could you, you have to get super close to the microphone, it's a little uncomfortable, but.
Oops, is it on?
Oops.
Sorry. So the berm that's in question is the one that's on Farmdale. It is a little bit more to the south. And the visibility issue isn't from that location. It's the one he's talking about that there is no berm is Farmdale and Highland. We're just asking for this, not a variance, what is it? An amendment, because it's about 12 inches of dirt approximately that they would have to reduce it. And it's along about a little bit under a quarter mile of dirt. That's what this berm is. It's about a quarter mile approximately. And it's about a foot of dirt that it's out of compliance that was approved back a couple years ago. So that's why we're asking for this amendment, because it's about 12 inches of dirt. And it's a very natural product. It's dirt, grass. It's not a building. It's definitely not any higher than anybody's building that's built in the area. Most buildings are 50, 60 feet high. This is about 10 feet approximately of dirt. And it's not an unsightly thing. It stops the snow from going onto the road. It actually benefits the property because it's like a snow fence. So it stops the snow from actually going on Farmdale, which makes it more safe during the wintertime. And during the summertime, it doesn't cause anything offensive. It stops any kind of noise. It helps nature. It stops visibility for animals, so the animals can kind of go on the other side of it and stay there and be corralled. And that's what we're trying to do, is make it more friendly to nature. Thank you.
Before we're done, would Mr. Jacobson like to say anything?
I just basically have to say, I mean, it looks very nice. It's all grassed in, it's seeded, and it would cost a lot of money to fix it. And I would hope that you guys approve it, and I would like to move forward.
Any questions from the commissioners? I think Commissioner Strelchuk had his hand up first.
Mainly a question for staff. This site's had several non-compliance issues in addition to the berm in the past. What is, sometimes when we get asked for an exception to something, we look at some of the other non-compliant issues when taking consideration. You know, there were light posts that were installed with intended light fixtures, something with the ponds and things like that. I heard about, and I just wanted to check to see what status was with those other items.
Regarding the, there were some non-compliance issues with the ponds or wetland area, as you brought up. That's under applicants working through getting in compliance with DNR currently. Not sure of the timeline for that, but they're working on that now. That's probably the reason for the trucking. And then I wasn't sure if there was any outstanding community development stuff.
The poles you're talking about were flag poles. They weren't light poles.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just going to make a statement here. You know, this was built in the beginning without approval, and you came back for approval later, and then we talked about lowering it. And you know, as an alderman of that district, I got an absolute ton of emails. How can people do this? This doesn't fit in. It's not within character of the neighborhood, and things like that. And it wasn't after a while in time that it came back and we looked to lower it. These were all put in, to my understanding, without prior approval.
Oh.
Correct? Or was a shorter berm approved and they just built it to spec?
They were approved as 6 feet with a certain slope and with some undulation. That's in the staff report.
After they were put in, or
Oh, but no,
before?
it got built. It got built not in compliance with the plan that was submitted.
It was approved for 6 feet, and it was 4-1 on the slopes. Now, when I applied for this, 2 days prior, it was 3-1, and then after the fact, it was 4-1, and I think you'll agree with me because Mr. Westbrook was out there. Now, when I did this, it was only supposed to be 6 feet above the roadway, and I'm pretty close. It's like 3-4, the slopes. There's a couple on there that you can if you open them up, they're 3-4, 3-6, 2-8. But the majority of it, I didn't have a gauge out there.
But that's part of construction, is that if you don't have a gauge out there to judge where it belongs, you need to write the check and hire somebody who does.
At that time, at that time, it didn't.
I'm going to make a statement that I just don't see the hardship here. You put in something that wasn't to plan. It was so high that we received a significant amount of neighbor complaints. And I'm struggling to see the hardship here. Staff recommends denial on this in the packet. I don't see it as, the fact that there's vegetation that's grown in because it's sat there long enough, or the fact that, opinions that you think it's pleasing doesn't mean it matches our code, right? It doesn't match our code, doesn't match what was approved. And it's not like a ½ inch here or a ¼ inch there. It's it's a foot, and that's a big enough difference that either you or somebody that you hired should have known the difference. And when it was addressed that it wasn't in compliance, it should have been swiftly taken care of. And now we're back for a hardship discussion on reapproval.
Settlement, there's settlement involved here too. It wasn't like it was compacted.
Yeah, it has been settling over the past few years, and it is lower. And as I appreciate the fact that you got a lot of complaints. It's something that was unusual to the area. It's something that is approvable. It's not that it's not approvable. It is approvable. It's 12 inches of dirt. It is a farm. It's in a rural community. If that was a hill, over on Highland, I'm sure you're familiar with the old mink farms. There's berms all over the place, substantially higher, and there's no
I
complaints.
will
They're
add that
nice.
the old mink farms, the reason we have a code for berms and what they are is because of those.
Yeah, those
So
are
they
pretty
didn't
good
get,
berms
so
they
they didn't
found.
get replicated again.
But those are nice. I mean, they're not bad. It's good for nature. That's what we're trying to do.
You got berms here on Granville here that are 20, 30 feet tall. You got them. My neighbor to
12
the
inches.
south.
And we're not talking about those berms, though. We're talking about these berms.
Correct. This is
So-
about 12 inches, and it has been settling. It's going to settle some more.
So is it in compliance, yes or no?
It is not quite in compliance. It is very close in proximity, though.
It's within,
Close.
it's within a foot, and it's been settling over the last 4 years.
It's been settling.
Well,
2 years.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Is it within a foot, or is it because in the report it says 6 to 10 feet, and my math says that's more like 4 feet over as opposed to.
This survey's from 2022, I want to say.
I don't think it would have settled 3 feet in 2 years. I guess I am in. It would not have been a hardship. We've talked about this parcel before, I recall, as well. So it would not have been a hardship had it been addressed at the outset when it was built. And then it looks like it's 2 years have passed since staff reached out with the areas that were inconsistent. And so I feel like it's a little bit disingenuous to come forward now and say, oh, but it's all, it's all well seeded and it looks nice. Yeah, because you've let 4 years pass between the time that you did the construction and now when you're being forced to address it. Yes, it's in a rural area. All the things you're saying are true, and yet there's a process for a reason. And you came forward, and there were what appears to be quite clear expectations and that were given to you, and it feels a little bit like you're decided to do what you wanted and hoped you would just get away with it. That is my interpretation. Perhaps that is very different than what you intended, but
It
I'm not
absolutely is.
inclined to.
It has
to
been
agree.
settling, and that's why if you analyze it, what's that? It has settled. It's not 10 feet. It's settled down quite a bit.
It's certainly not going to settle much more now that it's all heavily rooted
Exactly
in.
right. You were right. Absolutely right.
Well, I just said it wasn't going to settle much more.
No, but it's about 12 inches, approximately.
I don't know how high it is. If it's settled, there's just less to remove, I would think. Commissioner Urbani.
I think the height is one issue and the slope is another issue. If in the original documentation it says the slope should be 4-to-1, that's back in the 2020 documentation. If it's not 4-to-1, then we have potential drainage and erosion issues. If it's too steep, so if it's not, I'm more interested in that honestly rather than the height. I don't live out there. I don't travel that corner. I don't know about visibility issues, but if there are berms that are currently in town that are steep, it's because we didn't know enough when those were constructed. So I'm interested in following the standards for the slope too.
Well, we could add to the side A for the slope, would make it a lot easier and not That's one way of doing it, but then we're talking thousands of dollars in seed and fuel.
Commissioner Hawley.
My concern is really with the safety. And I know that Farmdale Road is becoming more and more traveled. There's more developments over there, and people have to be able to see. And with trucks coming out of there, this resident had people wound up in his yard. So we have to be really mindful of the fact that this could be potentially causing a safety issue, and that's where my concern is.
I respect here the gentleman who made had made the concern, but you can't even see on his corner. You have to pull all the way almost out to the Highland to look to the right. My berm hay that's on Farmdale, you can see as soon as you pull up to the stop sign to the left, going west. His you can't. He has trees all up on that corner.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Stoker.
My comments are this. I struggle with making you rework this. I'm your closest neighbor. I travel Farmdale every single day of my life, sometimes 4 times a day. I don't have the concerns of safety. I travel both directions. I do have a concern with a precedent that you opted not to follow a process that the city has, and here we are looking for you to get away with doing something. That's one way of putting it. And I'll give you an example. I'm building a 37-lot subdivision at the corner of Highland and Port Washington Road. Arguably some of the busiest areas in the entire city. I would love to have a 10-foot berm there. Do you think the city's gonna allow me to do that? The city's not gonna let me pull a permit in there if my berms aren't exactly what they tell me and dictate. And it's an unfair situation that someone like yourself can go out and just do this without expecting there to be some pushback. So I'm really torn because at the end of the day, your berms don't bother me. I, for one, like the berms on Highland Road by the mink farms. I think there's a purpose for berms, but at the end of the day, that is what the city has. That's the ordinance they have, and there's a process. And I feel like you're trying to circumvent the process, and if this board votes to allow you to keep them, I think we're setting a very dangerous precedent.
Dangerous precedent?
Yes, I think you're gonna have other,
Explain to me what dangerous is.
not dangerous from the standpoint of safety, that we're gonna have other people in the community looking to circumvent our processes by doing exactly what you did. You go and you do something without having the right approvals, or you did it incorrectly, like Commissioner Strelchek said, Alderman Strelchek. You hire someone. I'm in the construction business. I don't know how to make berms. I hire someone to do it. And when the city approves a 4.5-foot berm for me along Port Washington Road, that berm's gonna be 4.5 feet tall. That's just the way it's done. So, again, my vote is gonna be, I don't know how I'm gonna vote yet, but I would struggle to make you rework it because principally they don't bother me. They really don't. But the process and the fact that you're here again and the fact that you're looking for a hardship that I think it's a stretch, that's where I think we've got to be careful.
We would just like to move forward here and get a lot of this taken care of.
Well, the one argument would be, okay, let's move forward, let's get them lowered, and let's get it to the city's standard. And I understand that's not the desired route you'd like to go, but that's the decision amongst the people up here. And it's not an easy decision. I don't like spending your money, and that's why it's a hard decision for me. As I've stated, they don't bother me. I think they're fine. I don't find there to be a safety issue, but there's a principle and there's a fact that we are setting a precedent in this community that we're accepting a hardship that I'm struggling. Is there really a hardship or not?
It would be a hardship, financial-wise.
Well, I think it's Commissioner Stoker's point is it's a hardship that was of your own creation by not following the plan that was approved the first time. Did I summarize that correctly? Commissioner Schaefer.
Move deny, as per staff's recommendation, to deny the request.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion, questions? I think everyone got a chance to speak at least once. If there's no more discussion, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hawley.
So are we saying aye if we agree?
It's
Aye
the
to
motion is to
deny,
deny.
yeah.
Okay,
Per
so
staff recommendation.
aye to deny, right?
Commissioner Schaefer. Commissioner Stoker. Commissioner Urbani.
Aye.
Commissioner Barnes.
Aye.
Commissioner Chorin.
Aye.
Alderman Strelchek.
Aye.
Mayor Nurbin.
Aye.
Vote passes, motion denied.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Our last item tonight is a policy discussion regarding design guidelines for commercial structures. Take it away, Jack. You get to hear the results of Jack's survey.
It's the survey results. And with architecture, as you would have guessed, there's not a lot of uniformity. It's shocking.
We got as many opinions as we had respondents.
Yes. So what I did here is this is the math behind the works. I took every survey and I ranked them from mean, median, mode, standard deviation, and I highlighted the reds that are lowest and greens that are highest. So So just remember that when we look at the actual pictures now. So
Okay, so
I like the math part about it. So
is anyone here surprised by the results? Okay, just wanted to check.
So in terms of what we found, I'll go through them one by one, and I kind of hit the highlights of every single one of them. So let me just go to the next slide real quick. So general themes, not a clear consensus, as I stated. Overall ratings were positive. 16 and 19 scored between 3 and 4 with an average score of 3.41. The lowest, the two scoring were Quintessa and Associated Bank, and the highest was the Neighborhood Hospital. So then I went through I just kind of highlighted each one of these to kind of talk about what the results showed for each of the buildings. So the Children's Medical Clinic finished in the middle of the most of the categories. It's only one of three properties that didn't have a high or low score in any category, with an overall rank of 12. So right in the middle. So there wasn't a lot of good or bad with this one. Associated Bank finished 18th of 19th. Also was lowest in glazing ratio. Had the highest standard deviation, so either you liked it or you didn't like it. So that was one clear thing we could say is that we didn't like a lot of glass in the front of the building, but then that gets contradicted a little bit later, so we'll get into that in a second. Freighter, ranked 16 and 19, had the lowest standard deviation, which means there was general agreement on design, but it wasn't necessarily very positive. PNC, tied for 6th over of 19, scored highest in materials and articulation, also scored high in standard deviation for glazing, so there was consensus. Now this one again has a little bit of a glass front, so it's a little bit contradictory to the Associated Bank design. So I'm just going to go through these and we'll talk.
Jack, just so you know, when I was elected, that was the #1 complaint that I got.
Yeah, and now
Was that
it's
site after a few of these others got built.
and now
Just
it's
letting you
scoring
know.
high. We had a couple tied for 6th place. So this is also tied for 6. Materials had the worst standard deviation, so there was general disagreement on the materials of this one. Kohler Credit Union ranked 17th out of 19. Consensus lack of articulation. The mode score was highly varied. This one, mixed use retail, this one scored 14 out of 19, scored lowest in color. So people didn't really like the color. I think I'm assuming the awnings maybe and the material contrast with the awnings. This one was kind of surprising to me. This one scored 2nd out of all. So highest rated for color, highest mode score for materials, color, and overall. Kind of surprised me a little bit. So this one ranked 11th out of 19. Mode scored was the highest for materials, so there was an agreement on the materials. I think that was probably warranted. Quintessa again scored 19 out of 19. Lowest scored in articulation, low in glazing ratio. So another one that's an example of a lot of glass. Les Louise overall rank was 5th. One of the 3 properties that didn't really finish high or low in any category. It was just kind of in the middle, but overall there was general positivity towards the design. Metro Market tied 6th again, finished with the highest mode for color and articulation, highest standard deviation for color. So there was disagreement on color, even though it scored high in the mode for color. So there was a lot of people who liked it, then there's a lot of people that didn't like it. There was not a lot of middle. Lexington Square is the 16th out of 19, finished lowest for materials, but not necessarily consensus. I think that was probably the amount of mortar versus stone, and that was probably what drove that discussion. Medispa tied for 2nd overall, finished highest in glazing ratio and highest in materials, which is one we had a lot of disagreement on when this got approved. North Shore Bank, overall 12 of 19, had the overall lowest mode score, but also a high standard deviation. So some disagreement on this one as well. And again, a lot of big glass feature in the front. So Landmark Credit Union, 14 and 19. Only 3, again, this is one of the 3 properties that didn't have a high or low, so this was kind of an in-betweener for everybody. Arby's scored 6 of 19, ranked high in 4 categories of this, in standard deviation, general consensus overall. I think this one for a multi-tenant people liked. Jilly's Car Wash finished 4th. High mode score for articulation was the highest. And then Neighborhood Hospital ranked #1, highest in articulation, highest mode scores in articulation materials. Again, this has a front glass. So what does it all mean? I'm not 100% sure.
I think it shows we have the right mix of people up here. We don't all agree.
It just means we like to argue.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, overall, I think there was really only 2 that had really less than the positive score, and I think those had to do with the significant amount of glass. But other than that, again, there's not a lot of consensus. We'll try to kind of weed through it a little bit further to try to kind of further refine our design guidelines. But I guess on the good news, we're doing things okay. If everybody thinks the buildings that we're turning out are looking okay, the bad news, there's really not a consensus on what is wrong with them, so.
Good luck.
Proof that architecture is art and we just like to argue about things.
So,
Yep.
I ensured, mine
Well,
was
isn't that the struggle though? You look at one, you're like, I really don't like it. And you look at the next thing, you're like, yeah, it's different, but I don't like it. I don't know, you know.
well, we'll continue to try to plug away. I just wanted to share the results with you and see if you had any other wisdom or feedback for us as we go forward. But we'll continue. I think there's some minor themes that we can pick out of this, but overall.
There may not be consensus on what we like, but there might be some consensus on a few things we don't like, and that's progress. So. Well, yeah.
The consensus is it depends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, it's architecture, so I was expecting a lot of variety, and we ended up with a lot of variety. So we will continue to work on it and report back. I just wanted to fill you in on the results so that you weren't shocked on what we saw.
So were there any clear things that we've learned from this for subject to critique change or whatever, or is that still premature to?
I think the amount of glass seems like one issue for most, but then for others it was kind of not an issue. So we'll look at it deeper to try to figure out why that is, but that was the only thing that kind of stood out.
The amount of glass was a pretty clear theme unless you were a building that had something interesting to look at behind the glass. Then it was okay. Because the one building with a lot of glass scored higher, but the inside of the building came through and you could see it. So it fools the eye, I think. It's glass, but you don't focus on it. Maybe it's clever, that's why people liked it. I don't know. But how do you write a code around that? It's really, really hard, yeah.
It's going to be a struggle, so.
Is this information that developers would seek in the future?
I don't know if they'd want to know the results because they would be confused on what they would.
In fact, yeah, you're right. We probably should have done this in closed session because we should just burn it.
Well, that's why I didn't put anything in the packet.
These guys are indecisive. Yeah, here's proof. Yeah, no, this is all being broadcast. It's
I didn't
okay
put it
to
in
be
the
a little
packet just so there was
self-critical.
no paper trail of it, so I just figured I'd show it to you. So.
Now this one's out there now, so it's okay.
But we'll continue to work on it. Hopefully, we can kind of get something out of it a little bit more detail. But again, the good news is I think we're doing okay because there wasn't a lot of objectionable buildings out there. There was maybe one or two, and I don't think they were objectionable for the entire building. It was just the amount of glass that caused them to be objectionable, I think so.
Jack didn't like some of my comments, so he just threw those buildings away, right?
We had one person not fill it out. I won't mention any names, and then we had one person that filled it out partially. That was Marty, but I won't.
Completely, you lost the part.
I did. I was the middleman. So.
Excellent. Any other questions? There's probably more questions than answers for Jack, but.
Yeah. Well, we'll continue to try. Like I said, we'll keep plugging away at it as best we can. But I just wanted to share the results with you and get your
Perfect.
feedback.
All right. I think is that enough for everyone? Sounds good.
Move to adjourn.
After one announcement, the meeting next month, October 22nd. Same bat time, same bat channel. All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.